Governor of West Bengal, Mananiya Mukhyamantri ji, colleagues and friends on the dais, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. 3 বছর কিভ আসতে পারিনি, আপনাদের সঙ্গে দেখা করতে পারিনি, তাই অনেক কষ্ট হয়েছে। মমতা দি, আপনাকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ। আবার আমাকে নিমন্ত্রণ করলেন এখানে আবার আসার সুযোগ দেওয়ার জন্য। ধন্যবাদ কলকাতা আবার ভালোবেসে ডাকার জন্য। কলকাতা আমার বাড়ির মতো। আপনাদের জামাইবাবু জীবনভর আপনাদের এই জামাই থাকবে। A great joy for me to be here after 3 long years at the inauguration of yet another edition of Kolkata's prestigious International Film Festival. The festival, ladies and gentlemen, has always celebrated the inclusive spirit of cinema beyond the confines of what Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore called narrow domestic walls. I salute you, Kolkata, for giving me my first job. I salute you, Kolkata, for giving Jaya her first film in Mahanagar, directed by Satyajit Ray. But most of all, I salute you for your artistic temperament that embraces the essence of plurality and equality. This is what makes Bengal so special. আপনারা সবাই ভালো থাকুন, সুস্থ থাকুন, এই আমার আন্তরিক মনোকামনা। The pandemic, ladies and gentlemen, has indeed been ruthless, a gruesome situation we were unprepared to face. There was a sudden change in the status quo that altered the very dynamics of global economics, be it in the functioning of business or our film industry. So today we wonder what is in store for us in the future. Given all possible precautions, we can take heart from a checkered past in which, despite pestilence, wars, changing social dogmas and political turmoil, film industries all over the world have always propagated courage and faced every challenge head-on. Man, ladies and gentlemen, has always been a social animal, and the need to belong to a community and participate in a group of activities is a primal human need. Long before the advent of cinema, people turned to various forms of collective activity for entertainment, mainly centered around religious ceremonies and folk expressions. Be it the temple dances from South India and Manipur that gave birth to some of our major classical dance forms, or the North Indian tradition of the Ram Leela and the Ras Leela that married mythology and theatre in their most accessible formats. The tradition of kirtans and qawwalis were born at a place of worship, like temples and dargahs, to give communities a sense of companionship and solidarity. Compared to these age-old practices, cinema is a relatively newer phenomenon. Our first silent film, Raja Harishchandra, opened in the Olympia Theatre, Bombay, on the 21st of April, 1913, merely a few years before the dual setbacks of the First World War and the advent of the dreaded Spanish flu. Earlier, the Russian flu, often described as the first modern influenza pandemic, erupted between 1889 and 1892 and is believed to have killed more than 1 million people. However, 3 years later, once the danger had subsided, the world's first ever public screening of 10 of Lumiere brothers' short films took place in Paris on the 28th of December, 1895. As with the current pandemic, the 1918 Spanish flu also spread through international travel on steamships and trains packed with soldiers returning from the First World War. In India, the disease arrived in Bombay on a trooper ship from Mesopotamia in May, peaking in October. Mahatma Gandhi, ladies and gentlemen, the chief architect of India's independence, was one of the millions who contracted the Spanish flu. Had he not survived India's struggles to shed the British colonial yoke, would have taken a drastically different turn. The virus, described by the media as the dog that did not bark but remained ferocious with every bite, is believed to have affected close to 1/3 of our planet's population. In India itself, an estimated 18 million people died during that time. But ironically, it was also instrumental in uniting the people against the British, who had neglected all healthcare norms. Despite these turbulent times, India saw the birth of its film industry that continues to fly the flag high in our 75th year of independence and has managed to keep the egalitarian spirit of cinema alive for over 100 years. Dadasaheb Phalke not only oversaw the production of Raja Harishchandra, but also of 23 other films between 1913 and 1918. The following year, in 1919, saw the release of the first Bengali-language silent film, Bilwa Mangal, produced by Madan Theatre Company of Kolkata on the 8th of November. Yet, unlike Hollywood, the initial growth of Indian cinema was slow. Silent films in the West did occasionally touch on the subject of great contagions, including the bubonic plague, but mostly from the safe distance of a few hundred years. However, Indian cinema, unlike the West, had just begun taking its baby steps. And of course, our country's freedom movement was picking up pace at a rate much faster than what the ruling dispensation had foreseen. In 2020, Britain's World War I epic, 1917, directed and produced by Sam Mendes, turned out to be one of the frontrunners of the Oscars. And for many viewers of South Asian descent, the historical drama also offered a glimpse into the role of the Indian military who fought in the Great War. Sikh soldiers had arrived in the Western Front in 1914 and received worldwide news coverage of their valiant involvement in the First Battle of Ypres. Yet, ladies and gentlemen, once the skirmishes were over, their contribution went wildly unrewarded. Britain, alarmed by domestic disturbances, imposed martial law on Punjab, ultimately leading to the Amritsar massacre of 1919 in Jallianwala Bagh. Many Sikh soldiers were left angry and let down by the British government. Christopher Nolan's film Dunkirk, a favorite at the 90th Academy Awards held in 2018, however, led to direct questions about the erasure of India from the Second World War effort. Any portrayal of Indian soldiers or references to their contribution were conspicuously absent. In India, too, the country's role in the global conflict tended to be overshadowed by the major events of the Indian independence movement that coincided with the war years. Nevertheless, Within this larger conversation about cultural retellings of two world wars, it is important to look at how India's film industry responded and how it filtered stories of valor and sacrifice through the prism of cinema and the country's own struggle for freedom. The message of India's solidarity with the Allies against the Japanese invasion was underscored in the 1946 film Dr. Kotnis Ki Amar Kahani, which was directed by V. Shantaram. The film depicted the real-life experiences of 5 Indian doctors who volunteered to go to China as part of the medical mission during the Japanese invasion. Shantaram starred in the film as the titular Dr. Dwarkanath Kotnis, regarded as a war hero. The poster for the film, designed by renowned Indian artist S.M. Pandit, depicts the Buddha.